Chapter 6, Choctaw County Affair, Jenny. I couldn't stay anymore. Too many heartbreaks. My husband died so suddenly. Then my lover committed suicide in our bed. I don't understand why he would do that. Maybe he just felt too guilty for jumping in too quickly with a widow. Maybe he felt guilty even more about cheating on that said widow. The shame was too much for him to handle in that little small town. And then there was Samuel. Oh, Samuel. I will never forget that night he returned home from law school. My head on his shoulder. That sweet kiss. But that was it. A girl can't wait forever. When Ransom shared interest in me, he showered me with jewelry. The jewelry that my mother sold but could never afford. After my mother died, my 4 siblings were taken away to live with another family because I was not mature enough to take care of them. Even though I had been raising them my whole life, she taught me to work hard and expect nothing to be handed to you. When Ransom did just that, of course I fell head over heels for him. What is that compared to one night? I guess not much now. When Ransom died, Samuel was nowhere to be found, left for Chicago or New York or who knows where. Shortly after the funeral, left me here. So Julian, of course, was a perfect stranger to run to comfort me. He made sure our house looked first class. I didn't care what they all said, that we were sleeping together while Ransom was still alive, that we killed my husband to be together. That was simply not true. Well, not entirely. Julian was the closest man, friend, I could turn to. Then he turned on me. That harlot Cassie O'Grady, our head cheerleader from high school, the all-American sweetheart, prom royalty. But her mind was cattywampus. She was greedy and pompous. She would strut down that hall with her nose in the air like she owned the place. Cassie and Julian used to date in high school, and when she saw me with Ransom, she could only do her best to bring me down. It wasn't a secret that Ransom was the richest man in Delhi Township, but he never once took a look at Cassie. She was a cold gold digger with her finger waiting to pull the trigger. But since she couldn't have Ransom, she sought to get his money. She had Julian embezzling money from Ransom. Maybe Ransom found out, confronted Julian, and they killed him. Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable explanation. But I don't think Cassie planned on Julian falling in love with me. I fell in love with him too, yes. Perhaps Cassie also killed Julian and made it look like he committed suicide. That sounds more likely than me killing him. But they all wanted to paint me out to be the Black Widow. Either way, I needed to leave town. I couldn't stay here anymore. So I sold everything and moved down to Choctaw County, Mississippi. Flash forward several years. Who would I run to at the local shop? Cassie O'Grady. I know you killed Julian. She confronted me, sticking her nasty finger in my face. I left in such a hurry that only Bobby Shaver could rescue me. Bobby Shaver? Oh, I met Bobby doing work on my new house here in Choctaw County. I know what you're thinking. What is an heiress doing with an ex-convict? Love. He saw my hurt. I saw his pain. And soon he became more than my construction worker. When I moved down to Mississippi, I hired some men I found to build me a new home, start a new life. And Bobby Shaver was the lead construction manager. And I got to see a lot of Bobby. A lot. Anyway, shortly after Bobby moved in, he was a busy man. I didn't need a ring. Well, not yet. Bobby promised me constantly that he'd get me a ring, but I was really in no rush. Been there, done that. I was just happy to be with someone who loved me. I was finally happy. But Cassie seemed determined to ruin my life. Somehow she followed me to Mississippi and found where I lived. I answered her pounding on our door. Cassie standing on my doorstep with a folder of photos and letters. She threatened to get me and Bobby thrown in prison unless we paid her handsomely. Bobby was not going back to prison. He sat me down and demanded I explain what this wench was talking about. I told him everything, and I mean everything. I thought Bobby would leave me. I cried, kneeling at his feet, begging him not to leave me. He looked down at me, groveling. Taking my hand, he brought me back to my feet. He smiled and kissed my forehead. I'll take care of you. I'll always take care of you. And I'll take care of her. He grabbed his coat and left. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. He came home around 2 a.m. that night. What's going on? I could only exclaim with tears in my eyes. She didn't know who she was messing with. He mumbled as he hung his coat and took off his boots, placing them by the front door. People around here best remember that Bobby Shaver's got a temper, like a buckshot grizzly bear. He kissed my forehead and headed upstairs. He took a shower and then joined me in our bed, falling asleep shortly after. I didn't see or hear from Cassie again. I sent Samuel a letter. Oh, how I missed him so much. And with Cassie coming back into my life, I missed home. My heartbeat song. Life has been kind of trippy down here in Mississippi. Did you see the news? You remember Cassie O'Grady? Well, she's disappeared. I saw her here in Choctaw County, but I never spoke a word to her. Now the police are saying that me and my Bobby are involved somehow. We've been in all the newspapers every day for not on a year. They say we got tangled in a love triangle, a fatal game of truth or dare. But I swear I don't know what happened. The truth remains a mystery, and I guess it's ancient history. But don't worry, it's just a Choctaw County affair. Yours, Jenny. Of course I still love Samuel. Bobby knows that. I said I told him everything, even about Samuel, but Bobby is my lover. Well, Cassie would not go away. I couldn't go anywhere. People were talking about it everywhere. Those newspapers showed that she was a beautiful Southern lady. She got all the media hype that she was a sweet little devout. People saying they knew her back when, that she and Bobby Shaver were in love and I was the girl from out of town here to ruin everything. She followed me here. She wasn't even from Mississippi. Some news reporter from some fancy news station showed up on my doorstep one day. She shoved a microphone into my face. Did you kill Cassie O'Grady? Did Bobby kill Cassie? I fixed my dress, folded my hands, and looked her coldly in the eyes. Well, I do not deny I wished Cassie would die when she threatened us with blackmail. She said she had some information that would wreck my reputation and land Bobby back in jail. But there's no body. There's no witness. So y'all go mind your business. It's a Choctaw County affair. I slammed the door in her face. My back to the door, I exhaled the breath that I was holding, and to no one in particular I added, "Oh, you mess with Bobby and you better beware." I put on my best black dress. It might have even been the same dress I wore to my husband's funeral. It was the day of the trial. I hadn't seen Bobby in weeks. The police didn't want us trying to share stories to match up. At the police station, they tried to tell me that Bobby tried to sell me out, that he shared all about my tainted past, how 2 of my previous lovers had passed. You have nothing. I looked up at them. Anyone could tell you about my tainted past and my love lost. I've loved and lost. But I love Bobby and we have no connection to Cassie O'Grady. Well, the press went wild on the day of the trial. They put us both on the witness stand. The prosecutor thought we'd turn on each other. They yelled at me, "Cassie was Bobby's lover. You've had many lovers. She was blackmailing you." But they all discovered we would live or die hand in hand. I walked out in the lobby, needing a drink of water. That fancy DA from Jackson Way stepped in front of me. "Don't be fooled. We are not falling for your innocent facade. I will see both of you in the electric chair." He walked away from me in his fancy Armani suit. I watched him walk back into the courtroom. Turning back to the fountain, there was the foreman of the jury. "Honey, don't you worry. It's just a Choctaw County affair." She winked, tapping my shoulder and following the DA into the courtroom. I grinned, but my grin didn't last long, because I looked up, and there he was, my Sam.